for the watch.
What's the deal, my people? You know it is Don Tony Teflon, and I'm back at you with another one. And I know a lot of people were disappointed with the death and resurrection of Jon Snow, but I'm here to tell you that I have 100% proof that this is not the way it's going to go down in the books. And this was not the way they planned it going down on the show. So if you can, please hit that subscribe button so you can be notified every time I drop a new Game of Thrones or another type of video. Cheer! Now, if you have a sick feeling in your stomach because you are not happy about the way Game of Thrones ended, fear not, people. There is a book series, and the true ending will be in that book series. And I have proof, as I said. I will point to very much huge clues that I have discovered that will tell you exactly the way it's going to end for Jon Snow and how he's going to be resurrected. First thing we must do is go to the end of Dance with Dragons, the book, and see exactly how it ended for Jon Snow in that book. Then Bowen March stood there before him, tears running down his cheeks, for the watch. He punched Jon in the belly. When he pulled his hand away, the dagger stayed where he had buried it. Jon fell to his knees. He found the dagger's hilt and wrenched it free. In the cold night air, the wound was smoking. "Ghost," he whispered. Pain washed over him. "Stick him with the pointy end." When the third dagger took him between his shoulder blades, he gave a grunt, then fell face first into the snow. He never felt the fourth knife, only the cold. Now we can see straight from here that they changed things around. It's not exactly like it is in the books. I mean, we don't see Jon Snow fall face first into the snow. We actually see him fall on his back. Now I'm sure they did that for dramatical purposes, and that's the one to see Kit Harington bleed out that way. It was a little bit more dramatic, so we understand that change. Now one thing you have to remember, and it's one of the biggest changes in the show, and I understand why they did it in the show, not to confuse people or think that it would confuse people, is that not only Bran of the Starks is a warg. In fact, all of the Stark siblings are wargs. Sansa, Arya, Jon, Robb, Rickon, Bran, they all have the ability to go into their wolves. And that's the difference between them and Bran. Bran can not only just go into his wolf, but he can go into other things in trees and things, which makes him a skin changer. A warg is someone who primarily goes inside of wolves, and all the Stark siblings are that. So with that in mind, the fact that you hear the word ghost from Jon should give you the clue to exactly what's going to happen to Jon. And that is, before he is killed, he will put his consciousness into Ghost, and that's where he will live. So his body may rot out a little bit, and we're going to talk about that in a second, but his consciousness will not die because his consciousness is inside the wolf. We've seen this in the show a little bit when Jon Snow killed Orell. Before he could kill the body of Orell, Orell jumps inside of his bird and then attacks Jon Snow. So we see this is possible in the show to be done. Now you may say, Teflon, how do you know that this is going to happen 100%? Because the next book has not come out. All we do is have the death of Jon. How do you know this is going to happen? Well, I have 100% proof, just like I told you. And the proof is this. We know that Dan and Dave were given all the notes, everything that was going to happen to the main characters so that they can do the show. And they planned on doing this, but for some reason they jumped out of it and did not do it. And this is the proof. I want you to listen to an interview that Dan and Dave did with Kit Harington right next to him. Listen to what they say.
I'd like to be a warg. I'd like to put myself into a wolf.
just stop now. It's not going to get any better than that.
Two words for you. Season 6. Season 6.
Now, although this does sound like a very funny comment by Kit Harington, and it is funny, right? We know the man made a little jokey joke, and that's all cool, but you can take something serious out of what was said right here. You must truly listen to the end and see exactly what this dude says right after Kit says it. Don't pay attention to the joke, pay attention to what he says right after it.
Two words for you. Season 6. Season 6.
2 more seasons. Season 6, he says. So this happened in season 4. What happens in season 5? Season 5 is when Jon Snow is killed in the last episode. What happens in season 6? He would have came back to life, and he would have came back to life inside of Ghost. His consciousness would have been inside of Ghost. That's what they planned on doing, but for some reason they scratched that, and they didn't just make that up on their own. We know that. They must have got that right out of the horse's mouth, and the horse in this case is George R.R. Martin. That is why in the show they have Ghost laying right on the floor by him, because they tried to give you a little bit of it but not truly do it. And that is why Ghost stirs right before Jon Snow opens his eyes. Now I'm going to tell you exactly why I think they didn't do it. And I think it's because the way that Ghost has to be handled in order for Jon Snow to come back to life. Now, if you watch a lot of Game of Thrones channels or listen to a lot of people on YouTube, Watchers on the Wall, other places, you're going to hear a lot of people say that they believe that when Shireen gets burnt, that sacrifice is what's going to bring Jon Snow back to life. And we've seen her get burnt in the show, so they're going to say, hey, this is why they did it. This is what's going to happen. I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. It's a good theory, but it's not one that's going to come true. This is exactly how Jon Snow is going to get out of Ghost's body. First, we must understand that Jon Snow in the books does not realize he's a warg. And when he does have dreams and he's inside a ghost, he doesn't realize he's in there. When we seen Orell go inside of his bird, he knew he could do that. So we must keep that in mind. If you look at the prologue chapter from A Dance with Dragons, we are introduced to a man named Vlad Six Skins. And when he first gets his powers, when he first starts learning how to use them and he's walking into dogs, he doesn't realize what's going on until his father kills the dog. And when the dog is killed, that forces him back into his own body. So yes, people, I hate to say it, since Jon Snow does not know what's going on, I feel the same thing is going to have to happen in order for Jon Snow to go back into his body. I know people don't want it to happen, but trust me, in order for Jon to get back into his own skin, Ghost is going to have to be sacrificed. Ghost is going to have to die. That's the sacrifice that Melisandre will do. It will be Ghost. It will not be Shireen. Shireen might get burnt at a later date for a different reason, but it won't be to save the life of Jon Snow. I guarantee you that. Now you tell me in the comment section what you think. Do you like this theory? Do you think I'm right? And if not, please put it down what you think is going to happen. And also, as always, subscribe and click that bell so you can be notified anytime I drop a new video. Peace and stay sexy.